What's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of this post-reading episode and series of videos where I will basically talk about each and every one of your comments from the video, from each chapter that I read from the Hobbit. The purpose of this is to analyze the comments in depth and to really for us to discuss the story in more detail, and me not just reading your comments and going past them, because your comments have been really helpful for me to understand the story, for me to understand concepts that maybe I just fly by in the story and I don't get, and you guys help me. So in today's video, in today's first episode, I will talk about the comments that you left in the chapter 6 and chapter 7 videos, and then in the future episodes I will talk about the comments only in that specific video or chapter. Let's say the next chapter will be chapter 8, the next post-reading episode will be only of the comments in chapter 8. Without further ado, let's begin. Let's go. The first comment is from Mike Finney. He wrote, "Magic in the Tolkien universe is a very soft system versus a hard system like D&D with defined spells. It is generally used either very subtly or as a deus ex machina. Gandalf is not a man. Tolkien is still building his world, so he throws in references to past events. The Hobbit is written by Bilbo years after his adventure, so also past references there, but may seem like future from his in-story viewpoint. Eagles and all other races have their own languages, but many speak a common language." Okay, guys, so first of all, I've told you before that I'm not a big fiction guy. Believe it or not, what I read most is non-fiction. Okay, so fiction for me is very interesting, but it's not my main bulk of reading. When I saw D&D in the comment, I didn't know what D&D was. I had to Google it, and of course I found that it's Dungeons and Dragons, but I haven't even played the game before. So maybe that reference is not a very good one for me, and my bad, I haven't played it before, but yeah, that's my story. And a Deus Ex Machina, I haven't heard of Deus Ex Machina before either. I think I read it somewhere before, but the concept I hadn't grasped it before, so I googled it too. And the concept about a Deus Ex Machina, as I think I got it from Google, is that in a story, if you have some character falling off a cliff and out of nowhere comes a robot and saves the character, that concept is a Deus Ex Machina. Maybe it's not as real as in real life, let's say. And the name Deus Ex Machina comes from, let's say, God from machines or something like that, translated from Latin or whatever it comes from. But the point is, I get it, that the Tolkien universe, the magic in the Tolkien universe is not either or, it's maybe in the middle. And then he says that Gandalf is not a man, and that is something I've read in multiple comments, which I will address in each comment. But the thing is that in the story, I mean in each chapter in the book, you hear all these references to men in general, and I read men, I think human, and then I get this character described, which, you know, Gandalf, and he seems to have all the properties of a man except the thing that he's a wizard, that he has magic in him or something. But if he's not a man, well, then no one is a man. The Hobbit is not a man, it's a whole different race. Dwarves are not men, you know what I mean? So are there, let's say, normal humans in this world? Then Mike says that Tolkien is still building his world, so he throws his references, and that's very interesting to me, if I've told you guys in the past while reading. And then he said that The Hobbit is written by Bilbo years after his adventure, and that came in as a shock, because when I read that in the comment, I was like, what? I mean, when I began reading the book, I didn't get it. I mean, I didn't get it for the whole time. I thought it was just another narrator in the story. But as soon as I read this in the comment, I was like, bro, it makes all the sense in the world. You know what I mean? So thank you, Mike, for that. That's really good. And then he says that eagles and all other races have their own languages, but many speak a common language. I mean, that's interesting too, but it seems to me that the author was just complicating the world more than it needs to be, because if the point of languages is so we can communicate with each other, and we are talking about not different continents, we're talking about the same land, okay? which in the map that is in the book, which I will talk about that more later, it seems to be that it's just like, it's not even a whole nation. It's just like a small town. I mean, not a small town, but let's say a small county where, yes, you have mountain ranges, you have this land here and this land there, but let's call it a state. Let's call it a piece of land. But why would you have so many different languages when the point is that, you know, creatures can communicate to each other? And if they all have a common language so they communicate with each other, what's the point of having all these different languages? You know what I mean? I mean, I would understand it if this world and Tolkien universe have different continents and, you know, there's different peoples, and that's okay. But it seems to me from the story or from the map in the book that it's one same piece of land. Okay, so next comment is from Mr. Myth. He wrote that the nature of wizards in the Legendarium is very different from that of wizards in really any other fantasy media. Their power is not meant to be so overt, or it might be more accurate to say it cannot be. Gandalf's personal strength is inspiration. He is great at inspiring others to do great deeds and to keep hearts in the darkest situation. Okay, people, this is very interesting to me, but at the same time, I don't know what to say. I mean, the way Mr. Myth described Gandalf is like a normal human. I mean, in our world, in real world, we always talk about in the news, I mean, of this inspiring story of this man that had this, came from the bottom and he's all successful now and blah, blah, blah. And that's inspiring, right? That empowers others to want to do the same, and that's really good. But why call it a wizard when you can just say there's this really old and wise man that can help us in any situation? You know what I mean? Which, by the way, from that comment, Mr. Myth said that the nature of wizards in plural in the Legendarium. I mean, are there any other wizards in this world? I mean, don't get me excited, bro. And yeah, it's very curious to me that Mr. Myth, you wrote that it's different from any other fantasy media. And I've told you guys before, I mean, my idea of wizards 100% comes from Harry Potter. I mean, no joke. You can, you know, you can say anything you want about me, but it's the only fantasy world that I have exposed myself to because, you know, obviously it's so popular and whatever. But when I see Gandalf, that's why I get so frustrated with him, because my idea of a powerful and wise wizard is Dumbledore. And Dumbledore is so extravagant in the sense that whatever fears or bad situation is in, if Dumbledore's there, bro, no one can touch you, okay? But when I see Gandalf in, let's say, the wolf's situation, and all he could do was say, climb the trees, bro, I'm just like, Gandalf, you a weak ass bitch. You know what I mean? I mean, guys, my honest reaction. But when Mr. Myth commented that for the first time, it was really interesting to me because I was like, yo, I mean, I'm very curious to know more about how it really works. The other comment from Mr. Myth again is that Tolkien's conceit is that his Legendarium works are quote-unquote found texts written by someone else, in this case Bilbo, as a record of previous events that he has translated into English. Bro, I love that comment. I mean, I love that fact because it makes the Legendarium works or Tolkien's works and books so, let's say, mystic, and it gives the impression that they are so deep in history that besides his works in the Legendarium, his literature, what he wrote, he worked too on this past story or things that will happen before. It all kind of makes sense when you guys told me that he was a Catholic, that he was a Christian, because it all seems to me a similar or same story as with the different books in the Bible per se, because as I understand it, they are texts that were found, some of them were found buried, and when people found those texts, they translated them to all these different languages, and then after X amount of time, the Bible was created. It seems to me a similar story, of course not the same, but if you guys are right in the sense that Gandalf wanted to incorporate some of his Catholic believes in his stories and his books, then it all makes sense to me. The next comment is from Not a Namist, which he wrote, Gandalf has almost every type of power, though he is obligated to use his power sparingly and usually subtly. Okay, my question to that will be, what do you mean by almost every type of power? Because till this point, he has no power, bro. The only power I can see in him right now is that he can make fire, because that was his only solution to the wolf problem when they were in the forest, in the trees and whatever. I'm not addressing this comment as a cynic. I'm not being I'm not trying to be very cynic about it, but I'm just saying I want to know more about all this power that the book describes as Gandalf having, because I haven't seen any. I understand that the way magic works is very subtly here, but I'm just so hungry to know more about magic. And the last comment from chapter 6 is from Toodleske, which wrote, think of Gandalf as a guardian angel. He's there to guide and encourage, but can only use overt magic if absolutely necessary, and usually only against a foe of equal or greater strength. That's the best way I can think of to explain it at the moment. This is Bilbo writing the story years after the adventure is over from his point of view. Tolkien wrote it as if it was an ancient book that Bilbo wrote that Tolkien found and translated. So about this comment, I was thinking, okay, let's think again. Let's remember the wolf situation with Gandalf and the dwarves. I guess climbing the trees and waiting for something else was a solution. So him using his real powers or magic in the wolves were not, I guess, absolutely necessary. But what if the eagles were not there to save them? Because the fire was about to burn the dwarves. Either Gandalf is this all-knowing type of creature that he knew that the eagles were gonna save them, or he's just gambling on lives, on dwarf lives. You see what I mean? Maybe everything I'm saying will be clarified in the future as I read on, and if that's the case, tell me that in the comment. You don't have to put up with me and my questions, but I'm just saying that I may just have to accept it, how it is. That's how it is, and well, I'll have to read on, and just experience the story. Okay, now, so the comments in chapter 7. Mike Finney wrote that, I don't think that Tolkien intended to make magic weak as such, but was just trying to avoid making it or Gandalf into a Deus Ex Machina. Guys, I'ma look right now what this Deus Ex Machina means, because the idea that I have of the Deus Ex Machina concept is not making sense with the comments. So I'ma Google it right now. Let's see. Okay, so I'ma write on Google, what is Deus Ex Machina? Okay, so it says right on the right, Deus Ex Machina is a plot device whereby a seemingly unsolvable problem in a story is suddenly and abruptly resolved by an unexpected and unlikely occurrence. Okay, yeah, that's basically what I said, what I knew before. An unexpected power or event saving a seemingly hopeless situation. Okay. Let's see one more. Wikipedia. I've gone there before. You see, God, English, Deus Ex Machina is in English, God out of the machine. So, okay. Mike, you're saying that, Gandalf wanted to make magic interesting and strong, let's say, but he didn't want it to make it unreal or overly powerful, so that the story it's nonsensical, because if everything's gonna be saved by magic, then there's no point in danger or adventure. If you're never in danger, then it's gonna be a boring story. Is that what you mean, or am I not, let's say, interpreting it correctly? But if that's the case, that I get it now. Of course it will be more realistic than Harry Potter, but that's okay, let's talk about that. That's my point. In the Harry Potter world, there was magic. Of course everyone was a wizard, almost, the important world. And so there was danger too, even though there was magic. So the concept that there's really powerful magic doesn't mean that it will automatically be a Deus Ex Machina type. Again, it makes sense from one of the comments I read that Tolkien didn't want it to be a hard system like D&D, but he didn't want Deus Ex Machina type either. So, I mean, I think I'm getting it, guys. I mean, reading this, it's been really helpful. So the next comment is from Toodlesk. It says, "This is the easiest explanation for wizard magic I've heard. Think of wizards as having lesser angelic powers. Each wizard has somewhat different powers. The wizard/angels were sent to Middle Earth disguised as old men." Okay, first of all, Middle Earth? I mean, I'm sorry. I think I've read it in another comment, but is Middle Earth the name of the legendarium? I mean, the lands? It's not Earth? What the hell does Middle Earth mean? I mean, guys, I'm really innocent about this world, okay? I have no idea. So I'm just gonna take it for granted. Middle Earth is the name of Earth in this world. Just let me know in the comments. It says, "Except under certain circumstances, the wizards have been forbidden to use their full powers. They're supposed to mostly just guide and encourage peoples of Middle Earth in the fight against evil." Native Americans refer to shapeshifters as skinwalkers, basically the same as Tolkien does. Yeah, this analogy of comparing wizards to angels, yeah, I think it's making me understand it better, because yes, of course, angels won't use magic or supernatural powers, let's say, in a very overt manner. And yeah, I get it. I mean, I think I understand it now. And the part where it says wizards and angels were sent to Middle Earth disguised as old men. So you're telling me that maybe Gandalf is not really old? I mean, he is old. I mean, I think, but can he disguise himself, let's say, as a really young man if he wanted to? Is that the case? Okay, and the part where it says that Native Americans refers to shapeshifter as skinwalkers, yeah, I read that in another comment too, and yeah, it's interesting, and I get it now, because of course I didn't get it at first, but if that's the way, if that's the way they referred to the same shape-shifting concept in Old English, then it's I get it. So the next comment is from Mr. Myth. It's a very long comment, but I will address the specific parts. It says, "Regarding the purpose of the quest, you don't need to take our word for it. Let me remind you of Thorin's words in chapter 1 back when they were looking at the map." And then he goes on to quote the passage where Thorin actually explains the story where this dragon, which I think it's called Smaug, stole everything they had, the treasures, the gold, everything. And I actually looked in the book for that passage and I found it. So, I mean, Mr. Myth, thank you very much. I mean, I don't know what happened to me. I didn't remember it when I read chapter 1 for the first time, but I mean, thank you for clarifying it. Then he writes, "Speaking of the map, I assume you have looked at it. I don't believe I remember you ever commenting on it, but both Thor's map and a general map of the Wilderlands should be in your volume somewhere." Yes, I'm gonna look for it right now. Okay, so I found it. The first map that I have at the beginning of the book is this one. I will put a picture on it so you guys can see. I think this is, oh yes, it says Thor's map at the bottom left. So yes, it describes the lonely mountain. Here of old was Thrain, king under the mountain. Here was Girion, lord in Dale. You see, guys, the reason I didn't pay attention to this map at first is because I don't know anything about it. I mean, I don't understand shit. All these ancient runes, the desolation of Smaug. I didn't know who Smaug was until, you know, you guys clarified me that dragon stuff. That's why I dismissed it at first, but now that you guys, you know, address it, I looked at it and I read everything in detail. As I said at the beginning of the first chapter, the introduction of the book, it's so interesting to me how Tolkien was creating new languages, because, for example, the part of the map where, you know, it's supposed to be north, south, east, west, it's not even the normal letters. It's different letters. I'm curious to see if this language is gonna be taught to us throughout the books, or if it's just a thing and we just have to find out another way. The other map is at the back of the book, which it's the Wilderland map. I don't know if this map was created by Bilbo as quote unquote the author of this book, or if it's just, you know, just a map of Tolkien as the author per se. It's described Mirkwood, the Misty Mountains. So this map I saw in detail because I understood it better than Thor's map. Then I imagined, you know, the Beorn chapter, the part where they have to cross this part of the forest so they can get to the dragon. So yeah, now I see the map now. He goes on to say, to comment, further events are referred to because the book is an in-universe document. Some things aren't explained because we see things through the eyes of Bilbo, who comes from a rather isolated culture and isn't knowledgeable in a lot of the outer world. You know, guys, someone wrote in one of the very first comments in the first videos that the way I was going to understand or, you know, get a grasp of things in the story in the world is through Bilbo, because Bilbo is me, in the sense that I don't know anything about what's going on, neither is Bilbo. So Bilbo asks questions that I want to ask through Gandalf, and Bilbo is experiencing things and describe things as I would understand them, because I don't know anything and neither does he, you know? So that comment in the very first videos, I don't know who made it, but whoever did, I mean, thank you, because it made me, let's say, start to see the story in a way I could get it. Mr. Myth says, whoever said Gandalf doesn't need food is wrong. If that was me, then I apologize and rebuke myself. As a being, he is beyond a man, but as long as he walks as a man, he has a man's needs. Mr. Myth, I was looking, and no, it seems to me that I made the generalization that Gandalf didn't eat food from the part that you guys explained to me that he wasn't a man. So it's my mistake, my bad. The comment says, in archaic parlance, skin changing and shape changing / shape shifting are interchangeable terms. Yes, when I read this, yeah, I understood it a lot better, because at first I didn't get it. Interesting linguistic fact that was absolutely an intentional reference on Tolkien's part. Beorn in Old English means warrior / hero / man of valor. It also happens to be a cognate with the Old Norse word Bjorn, which means bear. Bro, that's fantastic. That's really good. I mean, that's fascinating on Tolkien's part. You might not have noticed, but Gandalf's strategy with Beorn was exactly the same that he had the dwarves do to Bilbo in the first chapter. Bro, that's right. That's right, because at first in the first chapter, yes, Bilbo was trying to learn why were there so many dwarves coming into his house. Bro, that's amazing. Beorn's house is modeled on old Anglo-Saxon mead halls. They're a very important part of Anglo-Saxon storytelling as well. Tolkien would have been very familiar with this trope. Bro, for me, it's very fascinating that parts or context or just points in the story are so connected to real story, or let's say real myths of real humans. It's amazing to me. The singing is to an extent just a thing in the kinds of stories Tolkien is modeling. The one in this chapter can certainly be analyzed, and Corey Olsen, a prominent Tolkien scholar, has done so in his volume Exploring the Hobbit. At this stage of your journey through Middle-earth, though, all I'll say is that the song talks about what has passed and what is to come. It's not necessarily supposed to be new information, but presented in a different way, more deeply showing what is on the minds of the dwarves at this moment. Bro, reading this, it seems to me that, I don't know if Tolkien did it on purpose, but it seems to me that the psychological content that we can learn from the songs is very deep, because in the real world there are some emotions that you cannot put into words, but you can in music. You can sing and portray emotions through songs that aren't able to be portrayed through with just words. You know what I mean? So maybe that's what these songs are meant to do. The forest in the song, for example, is Mirkwood, which they are going to have to enter soon. As you have deduced, it is a very wild and dangerous place. The term Tolkien would use is that Mirkwood invokes an aspect of fairy, the fairyland of ancient Germanic and northern tales that humans would stumble into, where the regular rules of the world don't apply and things don't quite make sense. Sometimes beautiful, sometimes not. Almost always dangerous. You'll see what I mean soon. Bro, this is so parenthesis. There's this movie called Annihilation from Natalie Portman that is basically that concept, that, I mean, a whole other science fiction shit. But the point is that they enter a piece of land that it's so beautiful but so dangerous and just crazy. I don't know if both concepts are the same, but when I read that part of the comment, that's what came to mind. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie. If not, check it out. It's not by any way sponsored, but you know what I mean. Gandalf does this fire and smoke rings of different colors because he can. It's a hobby of his. Well, the smoke rings at least. I don't think he was thinking too hard about it with the fire. Yeah, I mean, I just made the comment in reference to the smoke rings because, I mean, the series is called Lord of the Rings. So anytime I saw reference to the word rings, I'm suspicious. You know what I mean? Another case of really weird quote-unquote luck, in example Providence, going on here. The company, by pure chance, fell asleep on the quote-unquote porch of the Goblin Town goblins, resulting in their own kidnapping. These seemed like poor luck for them, but it led to a sequence of events where the Great Goblin was killed and the chief warg was hurt as well. And now that the goblins and wargs are looking for them, and they're generally in a lot of disarray, the attack they planned on the woodmen in the valley below is essentially cancelled. And generally the woodmen are good, regular people who don't deserve to be attacked by goblins and wargs. Additionally, this all took the company out on a part of eastern side of the Misty Mountains that they didn't intend. More north than intended based on the path they wanted to take. This forced them to seek Beorn, who was able to tell them that the path they wanted to take was in fact no longer a good path to take, and was able to show them to a different, better road. Guys, just tell me what you think about what I'm about to say. If it's crazy, let me know in the comments. But what this brings to mind is, you know that you told me that Tolkien was a Catholic, he was a Christian. So with that in mind, I know there is a concept of Christian tradition that says that God works in mysterious ways, and that there are some bad situations that happen in life that you think it's just bad luck and bad stuff, but in reality it has to be that way in order for other good stuff to happen to you. I don't know if I'm explaining myself real good, but the point is that when I read that paragraph of Mr. Mifmif comment, that came to mind because I'm thinking maybe Tolkien wanted to teach that part of Christian tradition to his readers by putting it in his story and not teaching it explicitly. Like, he's not saying this happened because of this, but you know, it's, I don't know, guys, just let me know what I think. Was this the intention of Tolkien? I mean, of course I cannot read into Tolkien's mind in a way, right? But I don't know, let me know what you think. The comment ends by him writing, Mr. Mifmif, out of universe, Tolkien just needed Gandalf out of the story for a bit. What Gandalf actually did when he left was reconnect into something important in Lord of the Rings, though its reasons were nevertheless slightly foreshadowed, very slightly, in both chapter 1 and the current chapter of The Hobbit. So maybe Tolkien did have some ideas about it. When Tolkien wrote The Hobbit, he wasn't thinking that he was going to write the next 3 books of the Lord of the Rings series. So if this disappearance of Gandalf wasn't planned, hand, then does that mean that when he did wanted to or decided to write the Lord of the Rings, did he just made use of this random disappearance of Gandalf to use it in the Lord of the Rings book? The last part of the comment is, Gandalf does truly believe in Bilbo. I think he just thinks Bilbo needs a little push and can be great. I'm just anxious to keep reading and learn more about Bilbo and how it turns out. I mean, when I finish the book, I want to go back and see what's so good about Bilbo. What is it that Bilbo's gonna do that's gonna make all this worth it, you know? Okay guys, the last comment in the video is from Annie68. It says, yes, Gandalf has to eat and to sleep, at least in his present body. Open quote. With the consent of j.r.r, God, they sent members of their own high orders, angels, but clad in bodies as of men, real and not feigned, and subject to the fears and pains and weariness of earth, able to hunger and thirst and be slain. Though because of their noble spirits they did not die, and aged only by the cares and labors of many long years. That's from Tolkien Unfinished Tales, the Istari. So that information is not from the Legendarium per se. That's not from the Hobbit, the 3 books of Lord of the Rings, or the Silmarillion, right? Wherever it comes from, it makes everything clear. Fuck, there's a god in this world? Eru? I'm just rereading the comment. Eru, god, sent member of their own high order. Bro, this Middle Earth thing is like a whole other universe. Okay, the next part of the comment is, the events of The Hobbit take place at the end of the 3rd age of Middle Earth. At the end of the 1st age, the angels / Valar accidentally sunk a whole continent into battle against the Dark Lord Morgoth. They are determined to not to let anything like this happen again. For this reason, Gandalf and his colleagues, who are j.r.r, a kind of lesser angels, are not permitted to show their full powers, if not absolutely unavoidable and unconfined to the bodies and needs of old men. Guys, I don't understand shit. I mean, thank you for, trying to explain this to me, but I have to reread this. The events of The Hobbit take place at the end of the 3rd age of the Middle Earth. Fuck, how many ages does Middle Earth has? Who the fuck is Valar? Guys, I'm not gonna read a lot into that part of the comment because I'm feeling, Annie, let me know if I'm not reading it correctly, but it seems like too much information so that it may be spoilers around. I'm gonna skip that part of the analysis. The next part of the comment is, Gandalf is leaving Bilbo and the dwarves to find out more about their main enemy, the necromancer. What the fuck? Okay, so I don't understand the 2nd and the 3rd paragraph of Annie's comment. I'm just gonna leave it there because I really don't understand it. There's too much information that I'll maybe get from reading the books. The comment ends with, Beorn is one of the good guys, but Tolkien did never explain where he comes from and why he is a skin changer. He got the inspiration from Beorn from the North sagas that he studied and loved so much. Okay guys, that's it for this first episode of this post-reading series of videos. Again, thank you for commenting on these videos and letting me know what you think. Thank you to all of you that commented, and I had the opportunity to address each one of your comments. So hey guys, see you in the next video, see you in chapter 8, and see you again later in the next post-reading episode. Bye.